Welcome back. We start our news bulletin from the United States, where the number of COVID-19 deaths is about to hit 130,000 with more than 2.8 million infections. Brazil has recorded nearly 1,100 deaths overnight, with a toll crossing 64,000 and over 1.5 million cases. Mexico has reported 523 deaths in a day, pushing its tally to nearly 30,400. Worldwide, the death count has exceeded 530,000 with 11.2 million cases. This report has more.
Countries around the world face the risk of economic slowdowns yet again as they reimpose COVID-19 restrictions after its second wave picked up pace. The situation in the United States continues to worsen, with multiple states reporting a record surge in everyday cases. As the virus spreads aggressively through Latin America, Mexico has overtaken France to become the fifth worst affected country in the world.
30,000 deaths and 200,000 something infected. That's what I understood. But it all depends on the area. In this area of Polanco, you can see that people have their face masks, they keep a healthy distance. But in more densely populated areas, people don't respect rules, unfortunately. Many believe coronavirus doesn't exist, that it was made up by someone.
Over in Europe, Germany is still struggling to cap and eliminate local spikes that have forced regional lockdowns. Meanwhile, the financially feeble Greece has refused to accept strict EU conditions on the use of coronavirus emergency aid. Once the hardest hit country in the region, the UK is now celebrating a reluctant victory over the virus on the birthday of its national health system.
I'm joining the rest of the country in marking the NHS's birthday by saying a big thank you on the 5th of July at 5 p.m, not only to NHS staff, but to everybody who's helped us through the last few months together.
In Asia, China reported 8 new coronavirus cases in the mainland, compared with 3 a day earlier. Meanwhile, in South Korea, sporadic cluster infections have pushed new virus cases above 60 for the 3rd day running.
Meanwhile, in Pakistan, 93 more people have died of COVID-19 in the past 24 hours, with the toll rising to 4,712. The Health Ministry says nearly 3,200 new cases were detected, taking the tally of infections to over 228,000. The ministry said nearly 130,000 people have recovered from the virus so far. Officials said 2,419 patients are critically ill. The province of Sindh is badly hit by the virus, with over 93,000 infections. Punjab has reported over 81,000 cases. Moreover, India has recorded its biggest single-day jump in COVID-19 cases, as nearly 25,000 people tested positive for the virus in the past 24 hours. India's tally of infections has now crossed 673,000, making it the 4th worst hit country after the US, Brazil and Russia. India's Ministry of Health said 613 people died overnight from coronavirus, raising the death toll to nearly 19,300. The ministry said over 400,000 patients have recovered from the disease so far. It said the state of Maharashtra continues to be the worst affected state, with over 200,000 coronavirus cases. The Taliban have called for a war crimes investigation and strict action against the Kabul administration for its recent fatal attack in the Helmand province. Dozens of civilians were martyred in the attack last week. In a statement, the group said the world's indifference to Kabul's war crimes a bigger crime than the killing of innocent President Ghani. The Taliban claimed dozens others were wounded in the Helmand mortar attack on a civilian market. Here, hundreds of villagers gather. They condemned Ashraf Ghani's spokesman, Siddiq Siddiqui, for blaming Taliban instead of apologizing for expressing sympathy for the crime. The Taliban demanded that all known perpetrators of war crimes, including the Sangin incident, must be punished. Now, Iran is filing a lawsuit in the International Court of Justice against the US over its sanctions effects of handling the COVID-19 crisis. It comes as Donald Trump's administration has refused to remove sanctions on Iran, even the country is in the battle against the deadly virus. Speaking in Tehran, Presidential Aide for Legal Affairs Laya Junaidi announced the decision, saying Washington's curbs are against human rights. Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif says the US has targeted Iran's interest in the region. Addressing in Tehran, Zarif said Washington's anti-Iran measures aim to cause a rift between Tehran and its public. Now, Russia has rejected allegations of violating the nuclear test ban treaty, saying it's committed to the international nuclear moratorium. In a statement, the foreign ministry said the US did not back its accusations with any substantial evidence. The ministry said Russia does not follow any US standards in the nuclear testing field. It said Russia will continue to operate in accordance with its international commitments. Moscow accused the United States of putting the treaty on the verge of total collapse by re-announcing its ratification. It said any disagreements on criteria for compliance should be settled within the framework of the treaty after it comes into force. Croatians are voting today in the 10th parliamentary elections to elect a new government. Voters have been strongly advised to wear masks and respect other hygiene measures at the polling stations. Some 3.85 million Croats are eligible to cast their ballots in the polls. Opinion polls suggest the ruling centre-right Croatian Democratic Union has a slight advantage over its main rival, the Social Democrats. Pre-poll surveys show there is a likelihood of no party securing an outright majority. But Prime Minister Andrej Plenković and his rival Davor Bernardic have firmly rejected the idea of a grand coalition. The new government will have an uphill task to deal with COVID-19 and restore the economy, expected to shrink some 10% this year. New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has launched her party's campaign ahead of the general elections. The election is scheduled for September 19, 2020. Ardern's Labour Party will face the National Party in what is expected to be a pandemic-dominated campaign. Speaking at the Labour Party Congress, she said 2,000 jobs will be created over 6 years by pouring $162 million into cleaning up waterways. Ardern promised to extend policies favouring small and medium-sized businesses, which generate about a third of New Zealand's gross domestic product. If the Prime Minister's high ratings are mirrored in the election results, Labour would govern its own without needing a coalition. Moving on, Egypt says it will hold inaugural elections for a new secondary parliamentary chamber on August 11th and 12th. In a press conference, Election Commissioner Lashin Ibrahim said holding polls during the pandemic requires precautionary measures. He said all polling stations will observe health guidelines, with voters and polling staff required to wear masks. Ibrahim said the results will be announced on August 19th in the official state gazette. Amendments made to Egypt's constitution last year provided for the creation of Council of Senators. The 180-member secondary chamber will be two-thirds elected by the public and remainder appointed by the president. Ankara's Defense Minister Hulusi Akar says Turkey's presence in Libya is in line with international law. In a meeting with Libya's Prime Minister Fayez al-Sarraj in Tripoli, Akar assured him of Ankara's support till the end. Akar and Chief of General Staff Yasser Güler also met Turkish security forces in the country. The Defense Minister said Turkish forces in Libya fulfilled their duty in a distinguished way. Libya's Deputy Defense Minister said Ankara's support for the government continues in the areas of military and security cooperation. The visit comes amid rising tensions between Turkey and France in recent weeks over each other's role in war-torn Libya. Now, 6 people have died while another remains missing following a boat accident in Nigeria's commercial hub, Lagos. The authorities said a rescue operation is ongoing after the accident near Ikorodu city. A Waterways Authority official said a total of 21 people, including the captain, were aboard the ferry at the time of the accident. He said emergency services were able to rescue 14 of them after the boat ran into an unforeseen object in the outskirts of Lagos. The official said the boat operator and the passenger were in breach of the law against night travel in waterways. The Lagos government has repeatedly warned ferry owners against night travel on the Lagos inland channels. In the United States, thousands of people marched for racial equality near the White House as President Trump hosted the July 4 fireworks display and military flyover. Protesters rallied along the National Mall and outside St. John's Episcopal Church, an area now referred to as Black Lives Matter Plaza. Police blocked off streets around the White House, BLM Plaza and the Lincoln Memorial to ward off dozens of organized protests. Following up on his scathing criticism of leftist politics at Mount Rushmore, Trump delivered another deeply divisive speech in the South Lawn. He started comparing the U.S. fight against Nazis with his efforts to defeat the radical left. Meanwhile, Democratic nominee and former Vice President Joe Biden accused Trump of finding new ways to tarnish American democracy. South Korea has activated a task force to explore the security and economic strategies amid rising escalations between China and the United States. The Foreign Ministry said the committee is comprised of government officials, people from academia and the corporate sector. The ministry said the public-private body was established in December last year, but its operations were limited due to the coronavirus pandemic. Officials said the task force has been put into full-fledged operation as bilateral ties between Beijing and Washington continue to deteriorate. Meanwhile, Seoul has also been holding interagency strategy discussions on issues related to the Sino-US turf wars. Both powers remain at loggerheads over Hong Kong's national security law, mutual trade relations and media and the telecom issues. In Japan, heavy rains have left at least 16 people dead and 13 missing in the southern Kyushu island. Authorities have ordered over 90,000 people to evacuate their homes after the rainfall caused landslides and massive floods. While the flooding of the Kuma River in Kumamoto Prefecture cut off homes and washed away a bridge. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has urged people to be on maximum alert as heavy rains are predicted to continue until Sunday. He ordered 10,000 troops to be deployed after rescue services were overwhelmed with the calls for help. Japan's Met Agency said such rainfall had never been seen before in the region. Coming up next in this news bulletin. In Chile, the lockdown to limit the spread of the coronavirus pandemic has caused a surge in unemployment and inflation. The economic pause has reduced many people to poverty. Meanwhile, the protests over social injustices and inequality have also raised the situation. More in this report.
The coronavirus outbreak has deepened a growing economic crisis in Chile. At the foot of the Andes Mountains lies Camp Dignity. It is a land government has provided to those people who are living just above the line of poverty. People are forced to reside in these camps because they cannot afford to pay rent elsewhere. The residents of these camps are infuriated as they do not have facilities in these camps.
I call on the authorities because there are a lot of people here and the authorities are nowhere to be seen. So in that sense, we need support and to be heard. There are a lot of needs here that are not being met. There are lots of babies here. We need formula, diapers, ingredients for casseroles because at the moment we are going hungry and we have needs.
The capital city, Santiago, is the inhabitant of some 6 million people. They largely depend on the informal economy. The unemployment rate hit 11.2% between March and May. The skyrocketing unemployment has worsened the conditions of the locals.
The economic and employment recovery will be slow. Chile is based on a service economy. These services have been largely suspended and therefore there is a substantial loss of the total number of jobs in the economy and therefore the source of income for a large number of people which we cannot yet quantify but which we estimate will be of a great magnitude.
According to the National Statistics of Chile, people working in the commerce, accommodation, food services and construction sectors are the worst affected. The pandemic has claimed more than 6,000 lives in the country, with more than 288,000 infection cases so far.
Hairdressers in England have reopened their businesses for the first time in 3 months as lockdown restrictions have eased. People formed substantial queues outside many salons across England as the country took its biggest steps yet towards the resumption of normal life. This report has more.
Britons are finally allowed to get a haircut after months. Some hairdressers and barbers were reported to have opened at the stroke of midnight. Managers have put in extra workforce at salons to deal with customers lined up outside. The new conditions require additional sanitization of the workstation and the use of personal protective equipment. But hairdressers say they are apprehensive about returning to work.
Well, we feel apprehensive. There is a degree of excitement. We're just apprehensive, really, how our clients will be, how we will be working in the new conditions with face masks and visors. Though now we don't have to wear face masks, so that's a relief. We can just wear the visor, and that appears to be quite comfortable, but we'll find out today what it's really like.
As for the customers, it is a relief to get a haircut after months. They say it's good to feel smart again.
Obviously, well, I normally get my haircut once a month. So obviously it's been, what, 4 months since I last got a haircut. And it's been, yeah, it's just brilliant.
Where salons are pre-booked, some 30% of bars and restaurants have stayed shut. According to the Nighttime Industry Association, fears for the safety and concerns over how to implement social distancing guidance, owners are reluctant to open restaurants.
The Xi'an Symphony Orchestra staged an online concert on one of China's sacred Mount Hushan in northwest Shaanxi province. Now, this report has more.
The Huashan Mountain in Shaanxi province is one of China's most famous scenic mountains and is known for its steep and perilous peaks. The Xi'an Symphony Orchestra held a concert on the mountain's west peak at an altitude of about 2,100 meters. It was viewed by tens of thousands of viewers via live streaming platforms including Bilibili, IQI and YouTube. The event gathered with 120 musicians and staff members. The event opened with the traditional Huayin opera. The concert also included a variety of renowned tracks such as Beethoven's Egmont Overture and Tandon's award-winning For the World, to echo the magnificent scenery of Mount Huashan. During the concert, a live show of the scenic mountain views was also provided to add luster to beautiful melodies played with instruments. The concert is part of the XSO's Return of the Art Season 2020, which marks the orchestra's returning to performance amid an eased COVID-19 lockdown. In the coming month, the XSO will bring 7 rounds of concerts especially designed for the concert tour around the globe.
With that, we come to the end of this bulletin. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News. Take care.